1 in 3 Australian families are now living with financial stress so severe they can't even cover their basic needs. Childcare waitlists stretch for months, mental health hotlines ringing off the hook, and the dream of owning a home, for many, it's already dead. What's really going on in Australia? Behind the beaches and bright cities, something dark and dangerous is unfolding. Families, good, hard-working families, are breaking under pressure. Why? What's causing it? And more importantly, can it be stopped? In this video, we uncovered 10 shocking reasons why Australian households are collapsing like never before. From hidden economic traps to the silent mental health epidemic, each reason is more eye-opening than the last. This isn't just a social issue, it's a national emergency. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll see Australia in a way you never expected. Number 1. The crushing cost of living. Imagine working full-time, juggling bills, kids, and responsibilities, yet still struggling to put food on the table. That's the brutal reality for millions of Australian families today. And it's not because they're lazy or careless, it's because everything is getting more expensive, fast. In the past year alone, the price of groceries has jumped by over 8%, while energy bills have surged by more than 20% in some regions. Rent, up almost 30% in major cities like Sydney and Brisbane. Wages, barely moving. It's a perfect storm. Families who once lived comfortably are now living paycheck to paycheck, and for single parents or low-income households, it's even worse. Children are going to school hungry. Parents are skipping meals. Some are even choosing between heating their homes and buying medicine. And the emotional toll? Devastating. Financial stress is now one of the top causes of relationship breakdowns and mental health struggles in Australia. What's most alarming is that this pressure is no longer just hitting the vulnerable. Even middle-class families with both parents working are falling behind. They're drowning in bills, debt, and fear. The cost of living isn't just a number, it's a silent force tearing families apart. And without serious change, it's only going to get worse. But the cost of living is just the beginning. In the next section, we'll uncover how the housing crisis is driving families into a downward spiral, with some losing everything they've worked for. Number 2. Housing crisis and homelessness. Australia is facing a housing disaster, and families are paying the highest price. Right now, over 640,000 households are in serious rental stress, spending more than 30% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. For many, that's not even enough. Across the country, families are being forced out of their homes, not because they lost their jobs, but because rents are rising faster than wages can catch up. In major cities like Sydney and Melbourne, finding an affordable rental is like winning the lottery. Properties are snatched up in minutes, often at prices way beyond what's reasonable. Families are competing with dozens of other applicants, some even offering months of rent up front just to secure a place. And if you think homelessness only affects individuals on the street, think again. More and more families are becoming the hidden homeless, living in cars, motels, or couch surfing with relatives. Children are being raised in unstable, temporary housing with no space, no privacy, and no sense of home. This isn't just about comfort, it's about survival. Without stable housing, everything else begins to fall apart. Work, school, health, and relationships. Parents feel like they're failing. Kids grow up anxious and uncertain. What once was the great Australian dream, owning a home, raising a family, building a life, now feels like a cruel fantasy for many. And while property investors profit, everyday families are left in crisis. But this housing nightmare is only part of the story. In the next section, we reveal how mental health issues are spreading like wildfire, quietly destroying families from the inside out. If this video opened your eyes, don't just scroll. Drop a comment below and tell us which issue hit hardest. Your voice matters, and it keeps the conversation going. We put our hearts into every video, so if you want to see more truth like this, hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means everything to us. Number 3. The silent mental health epidemic. While rising prices and housing chaos are easy to see, there's another crisis that's harder to notice, but just as deadly: mental health. In 2025, over 4.5 million Australians are living with a mental health condition. That's nearly 1 in 5 people. And families? They're feeling it the most. Mums and dads are burnt out, juggling work, finances, and parenting with no time to breathe. Anxiety, depression, and emotional exhaustion have become part of daily life. And when parents are struggling, it spills over to children. More kids than ever are dealing with anxiety disorders, behavioral issues, and emotional distress. Schools are reporting record levels of mental health-related absences. And at home, conversations are being replaced by silence, outbursts, or breakdowns. Mental health services are overwhelmed. Families are waiting months just to speak to a psychologist. And for those in rural or low-income areas, help is often completely out of reach. It's a vicious cycle: stress at work, pressure at home, no support in sight. Families feel isolated, ashamed, and helpless. And here's the truth: many families are falling apart not because they don't love each other, but because they're mentally and emotionally drained. This silent epidemic is breaking the very bonds that hold families together. And unlike a broken bone, you can't always see it or fix it quickly. Mental health isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of every strong family. And right now, that foundation is cracking. But it gets worse, because while families are trying to stay strong, their paychecks aren't keeping up. In the next section, we uncover how wage stagnation and inflation are creating an invisible wall between survival and collapse. Number 4. Wage stagnation versus soaring inflation. You work hard, you do everything right, but at the end of the month, there's nothing left. Sound familiar? That's the reality for millions of Australian families stuck in the middle of a growing financial trap. While inflation keeps climbing, wages have barely budged in over a decade, and it's hitting families where it hurts the most: their wallets. Let's break it down. In the past 5 years, the cost of basic necessities like food, fuel, housing, and healthcare has jumped by more than 20%. But during that same period, the average wage has grown by less than 10%. That's a huge gap. And for families, it means less purchasing power, more stress, and fewer choices. Parents are working longer hours or taking on multiple jobs just to stay afloat. But no matter how hard they try, it's never enough. Birthday parties are canceled, school trips skipped, grocery lists shortened. Even so-called stable jobs can't guarantee stability anymore. This growing disconnect is creating a new kind of poverty, not the poverty of unemployment, but of the working poor. Families with jobs, education, and ambition still falling behind. It's not just frustrating, it's demoralizing. Many parents feel like they're failing their children, even though they're doing everything they can. And when money gets tight, everything suffers: marriages, mental health, and even children's futures. The dream of building a better life? For many, it's slipping further away with every pay cycle. But money isn't the only pressure point. In the next section, we'll reveal how childcare and education challenges are making it nearly impossible for parents to plan for the future or even survive the present. Number 5. The collapse of childcare and education access. What do you do when you want to work, but there's nowhere to leave your child? Or when the wait list for daycare is longer than your maternity leave? That's the nightmare many Australian families are facing right now. Childcare across the country has become unaffordable, inaccessible, and understaffed. In some areas, families are waiting over 12 months just to get a single spot. And even when a space opens up, the costs are sky high, often more than $150 per day. For many parents, it's simply not worth it. It's a lose-lose situation. If you stay home, you lose income. If you work, childcare eats half your pay. And if you're a single parent, it's almost impossible. The ripple effects are enormous. Parents, especially mothers, are being forced out of the workforce not by choice, but by necessity. That means less income, fewer opportunities, and more pressure on a single earner to keep the family going. But it doesn't stop at childcare. Schools are also under pressure. Underfunded public schools, overworked teachers, and growing classroom sizes mean children aren't getting the support they need. And for parents who want better, private school fees are skyrocketing beyond reach. Education is supposed to be the great equalizer, but instead it's becoming another barrier. Families are stuck in a system that offers no flexibility, no support, and no solutions. And when a family can't rely on care or education, the entire structure begins to fall apart. But the stress doesn't end at the school gate. In the next section, we'll explore how parents themselves are being pushed past their limits, carrying the weight of too many roles with almost no help. Number 6. Overworked, under-supported parents. Parenting has never been easy, but today it feels almost impossible. Modern Australian parents are expected to be full-time workers, full-time caregivers, teachers, emotional supporters, and somehow also find time to take care of themselves. The result? Total burnout. More than 60% of parents in Australia report feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. They're not just tired, they're running on empty. Every day feels like a race against the clock, and the finish line keeps moving. Gone are the days of "it takes a village." Today, many parents are raising children in isolation, without extended family nearby or affordable help available. Support systems have crumbled, and government assistance often feels out of touch with real-life struggles. And let's not forget the emotional load, keeping track of school events, doctor's appointments, meals, finances, and every little detail that keeps a household running. It's a job in itself, and it's mostly invisible. This constant pressure is breaking families down from the inside. Marriages are strained, tempers are short. Parents feel guilty when they're at work and guilty when they're not. No matter what they do, it's never enough. And worst of all, many suffer in silence. They don't complain because they think everyone else is managing. But the truth is, they're not. Parents need help, but they're not getting it. Until we start recognizing and supporting the real weight modern families carry, this crisis will only grow. And that brings us to a major reason families feel disconnected: time. In the next section, we'll reveal how the broken work-life balance is stealing away the very thing families need most: each other. Number 7. Broken work-life balance. What happens when parents are always working and kids are always waiting? Welcome to the Australian work-life crisis, where families are slowly falling apart, not because they don't care, but because they don't have time. In Australia, full-time workers put in an average of 41 to 44 hours per week, with many clocking in even more due to overtime, side jobs, or commuting. Add to that household chores, errands, and parenting duties, and there's barely a moment left to breathe, let alone bond. Weekends that should be for rest are spent catching up. Evenings are a blur of homework, cooking, and collapsing on the couch. And quality time, it's become a luxury. Children are growing up feeling ignored, disconnected, or glued to screens while their parents work late or answer emails. Couples are becoming roommates, passing each other through shifts, barely speaking. Family dinners, deep conversations, even laughter, it's all fading. Work is supposed to provide stability, not steal our relationships. But somewhere along the way, Australia's hustle culture started valuing productivity over people. And this pressure isn't just mental, it's physical. Chronic stress from poor work-life balance is linked to anxiety, sleep disorders, and even heart disease. Parents are burning out while trying to keep the lights on and their families together. Other countries have taken action: shorter work weeks, flexible hours, family leave. So why is Australia still stuck? Until families are given the time and space to connect, this imbalance will keep pushing them further apart. And when time runs out, often so does patience. In the next section, we explore how this constant pressure is leading to a rise in relationship breakdowns and divorce across the nation.
Number 8. Relationship breakdown and divorce rates. Love isn't always enough, especially when life gets overwhelming. In recent years, Australia has seen a sharp rise in relationship breakdowns, with divorce rates climbing, especially among couples with young children. And it's not just about falling out of love, it's about burnout, financial stress, emotional distance, and constant pressure from all sides. When families are stretched thin, financially, emotionally, and physically, something has to give. Unfortunately, it's often the relationship. Money troubles are now one of the leading causes of divorce, and when you add in lack of time, sleep deprivation, and no emotional support, couples start to drift apart. Arguments become more frequent, communication breaks down, resentment builds. Many parents say they feel more like business partners or co-managers rather than a loving couple. Romance fades, intimacy disappears, and without the time or resources to reconnect, many relationships simply collapse under the weight of daily survival. It's even harder when there are children involved. Parents often stay together for the kids, only to find the home environment becomes tense, toxic, or emotionally cold, which can be just as damaging as separation. And when separation does happen, it brings a whole new set of challenges: co-parenting stress, legal fees, emotional trauma, and massive disruptions to children's lives. Families don't just lose each other, they lose stability, routine, and a sense of safety. And while not every relationship can or should be saved, many could have survived with the right support, time, and space to heal. But what if the real problem isn't just inside the home, but in how we connect with each other in the digital age? In the next section, we'll reveal how digital isolation is replacing real family connection and why it's one of the most dangerous threats yet.
Number 9. Isolation and disconnection in a digital age. We're more connected than ever, but somehow we've never felt more alone. In today's digital world, it's not unusual to see families sitting in the same room, yet no one is talking. Parents are checking emails, teens are scrolling TikTok, kids are glued to iPads. Screens have replaced conversations, and silence has replaced connection. The average Australian adult now spends over 6 hours a day on digital devices. For teenagers, it's even more. And while technology has its benefits, it's also creating a dangerous kind of emotional distance. Families aren't sharing meals, stories, or meaningful time together like they used to. The little moments, laughing over dinner, talking about your day, simply being present, are being lost to notifications, Netflix, and never-ending news feeds. This constant digital distraction leads to emotional isolation. Parents feel disconnected from their kids. Couples feel like strangers. Children are more anxious, with studies linking excessive screen time to poor sleep, mood disorders, and reduced social skills. Even worse, many turn to online spaces for validation, attention, or escape, further widening the gap at home. Real emotions are bottled up, and screen time becomes a coping mechanism. The result? Families are living side by side, but not together. The irony is heartbreaking. Technology was meant to bring us closer. Instead, it's become one of the biggest barriers to real human connection. Until we put down our phones and look up, families will continue to drift apart, digitally connected but emotionally divided. But while tech might be a silent divider, there's one more reason that cuts even deeper: when those in power fail to act. In our final section, we expose how government inaction and misplaced priorities are leaving Australian families to fend for themselves.
Number 10. Government inaction and misplaced priorities. When a system is broken, people look to their leaders for help. But what happens when that help never comes? For years, Australian families have been asking for relief: affordable housing, better childcare, mental health support, and fair wages. But instead of meaningful action, they've been met with empty promises, delayed reforms, and short-term Band-Aid solutions. Billions are spent on defense contracts, corporate tax cuts, and political campaigns, while everyday families are told to just tighten their belts and wait it out. The disconnect between government policies and real household struggles has never been more obvious. Renters are left out of housing reforms. Childcare subsidies are confusing or don't reach those who need them most. Mental health funding is announced and then disappears into red tape. Parents working 2 jobs still can't afford groceries, and meanwhile, Parliament debates feel far removed from the kitchen table conversations happening across the country. It's not just frustrating, it's infuriating, because while families suffer in silence, those in charge often seem more focused on winning elections than fixing lives. This growing distrust is dangerous. It creates a sense of hopelessness. Families stop believing that change is possible. They stop voting. They stop speaking up. But silence doesn't fix broken systems. Australian families don't need more headlines. They need action, accountability, and policies that prioritize people over politics. Because if we continue to ignore the warning signs, the collapse of the family unit won't just be a personal tragedy, it will be a national crisis. But here's the truth: change is possible, and it starts by raising awareness, speaking out, and demanding better. Let's wrap this up with a final message and how you can be part of the solution. Australia isn't facing a single family crisis, it's facing 10 at once. From the crushing cost of living to emotional burnout, relationship breakdowns, and a system that no longer serves its people, families are being stretched to their limits. And the scariest part? Most of this is happening behind closed doors, quietly, silently, invisibly. But silence doesn't mean safety. It means collapse is coming, unless something changes. Families are the foundation of every strong society. When they fall, everything else begins to crumble: the economy, the culture, the future. We can't ignore this anymore. So if this video hit home, you're not alone, and you're not powerless. Together, we can raise awareness, demand better policies, and start rebuilding the support systems families so desperately need. Because Australia's greatest strength isn't in its politics or profits, it's in its people. So what can be done? First, governments must act, not with more talk, but with bold, targeted reforms. That means real investment in affordable housing, expanded access to childcare, and funding mental health services that work for everyday families. Next, we need to rethink the work-life model, encourage flexible work policies, promote family leave, and support shorter work weeks so parents can actually be present in their children's lives. Schools and communities must also step up. That means hiring more counselors, reducing class sizes, and creating local support hubs where families can access everything from parenting help to legal advice, all in one place. But most importantly, we must reconnect with each other. Limit screen time, talk, share meals, ask how someone's really doing, and listen.
Change won't happen overnight, but if we raise our voices, support each other, and keep pushing for better, we can stop this collapse and build a stronger, more united Australia, one family at a time. And if this video was eye-opening, don't miss our last one. It dives even deeper into the real struggles facing Australians today. We pour hours of research, writing, and editing into every video. So if you believe these stories need to be heard, please support us with a like and a subscribe. It's just one click, but it means the world to us and helps us keep creating content that matters.